Guys, Mr. Bowman here. Today we're going to go over that DIY practice task that we've just finished in class. Hopefully you've been given it back. And I'm just going to start off by recapping, what do you need to do to get achieved? So you need to get one equation correct. You need to get one graph correct. You need to get one substitution. You also need one point of intersection. And this is something we haven't gone over too much, but that'll be a big emphasis later on in this video. And finally, you need to communicate your answers. So you need to communicate. You need all of these first ones here to pass. So if you're doing the equations and the graphs really well, maybe you got all of them right, you will still get not achieved. You'll not pass if you've missed any of the other ones, the substitution, the point of intersection, or that communicating of your answers. So hopefully that helps us out. That's our first point. So the rest of this video, we're just going to focus on the achieved parts, and then the next video will focus, well, how can I push my achieved to those higher merit or excellence grades? So I'm just going to scroll down, and this here was our task. And the first thing I want to emphasize, do not write anything on this page. It will most likely not be marked. Your working must go in the graph and in the space provided. So we're going to jump into this example, and the first thing you always want to do is you always want to draw your graphs. So we can see Cooper's cement has been drawn for us. So we've got to do Wonderworks and Top Notch and Building Associates. All of those need to be drawn for us. So let's get into them. Let's start off with Building Associates, and that equation's already been given to us. That 130 is the start point, and that 80 is how much it goes up for every one. So let's find that on our graph. We can see in this area, here it's going to be 130 somewhere, and it looks like it's going up in tens, so we're going to just draw a little dot at that 130 range. It's then going to go across 1 and up 80. So we're going to go across 1, which ends us over here. Just a reminder, if you went across 1 in terms of that, you actually only went up 0.5, which definitely wouldn't be right. And that's going to take us all the way up to 210. We're then going up to 290. We've then got 370, which will be there. After that, we'll have 450, which is just up there, and you can see that line forming. So with a ruler, what you'll need to do is you'll then need to connect that line to make sure it's perfect. So I didn't do that there in the video, but you need to make sure that is done well. Okay, so that's the first line, and don't forget, I'm going to label that. That's really important, letting them know that it's Building Associates. Okay, so we've done the graph for that first one. We're now going to look at Top Notch, and we don't have an equation, but we've been given most of it. It starts at 250 and it goes up 50 for every meter, and something a bit new, it stops at 6 meters. So maybe their trailer can't carry anything more than that. So let's go to our graph. We find our start point, which is up here at 250. We go across 1 and up 50, across 1 and up 50, across 1 and up 50, across 1 up 50, across 1 up 50, and we carry that on all the way up until 6 here. And we can see that's where 6 is, and they don't do any more. We then connect those dots. That connection, and then just at the end there, we just want a little bold dot just to suggest that it finishes. There you go, and we're now going to label it. That one there is TA, and I'm going to give that a big tick on the other page because I've now graphed 3 of the 4. And the final one, A big hint, normally the wordiest question is the step graph, and that's what we've got here. So the cost of the cement depends on how much the customer requires. If the volume is less than 2 meters cubed, it's going to be $250. If it's between 2 and 4, it's going to be $450. And if it's between 4 and 6, it'll be $650. And again, they don't do more than 6 meters cubed. So let's get into that. So let's find $250. So we've got a hollow dot here, and we go across to 2. So just finding it on the axis, it's down the bottom there. We go across to 2, and we draw a bold dot. So we've now done that first part. We're then going to do the same for 2 to 4, which is at 450. So we draw a hollow dot, and then we draw, I'm not sure why the pen colors are changing, but we'll just go with it. And then we connect there. And then finally we do the same for 650, which is all the way up here. There's our hollow dot. It goes across to 6, and it goes there. And that one there we've got a label. That there is WW Wonderworks. So we've graphed our 3 ones. So just a reminder, make sure you use a ruler when you're doing yours. And I would suggest different colors in terms of pens, just to make it easier. So if you've got color pencils and stuff like that, I would highly recommend that you bring them with you. Okay, so those are your graphs. Just a reminder, you only needed one of them, but if you got all 3, including the dots, hollow and bold in the right places, that would actually be enough to get you the merit mark and actually the excellence mark for graphs as well. Hey, so my graph is gone, so we'll start working on this side a bit more. Oh gosh, I'm not sure why I got a glitch there, but we'll do it over there. The first step, always do your graphs, which we've done. We then move on to the equations. And this time around here, we can see we've been given one of the equations. So we don't really need to do anything for that. So building associates, the cost is equal to 80V plus 130. We're then going to have a look at top notch. The cost is equal to, so just a reminder, the fixed charge where it started is going to be the plus 250 at the end. And how much it goes up per meter is going to be the number in front of the volume, which stands for V. And key thing at this point here, something that a lot of us forget, is because the graph stops at 6, so we can see there it stops at 6, we must put our limits in to say that it stops at 6, or it's only valid between 0 and 6. So a lot of us did miss marks for that reason. We then have a look at Cooper's cement, so CC, and then we can do Wonderworks after that as well. So let's flip back to the graph just to see what Cooper's cement will be. So Cooper's cement is that blue one, so we can see here it's starting at 360, so that means it's going to be plus 360. It goes across 1 and up, how much is that, 40? So that means it's going to be 40V, and don't forget the C in front of it. So we've got 40V plus 360. So let's switch back to our answers. So C is equal to 40V plus 360, and there were no limits, so we don't need anything else next to that. And we then have a look at Wonderworks. So Wonderworks is the most annoying one. So we started off with our first step, 250. That was between 0 and 2. Don't forget your symbols. So we have it without and then with that extra line after that. We then do the next one. C is equal to 450 when it's between 2 and 4. And the last one, C is equal to 600 when it's between 4 and 6. So just the note, I've been getting us to explain what these equations mean. We don't need to do that in our real internal. That's just to help us understand them a bit more. So our equations are done. So we can't get any marks for that first one because it's been given for us, but there are potentially 3 ticks here to be had. You need one of them to pass or 2 of them to get the excellence tick for that as well. And don't forget, you have to have those limits or else you won't be getting any marks. Okay, so we've done the equations. The third step that I've always talked to us about is the recommendations. And I'll just scroll up, I'll get rid of those equations for now. And those recommendations, if we go back to the other page, they relate to these projects, the carport, the driveway, and the barbecue area. You'll always see them listed in your internal. And we need to see which one is cheaper. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start off with the carport. So we've got the carport, and that's 3.2 meters cubed. And to start off with, we're going to navigate to our graph, and we're going to find 3.2 on our graph. So 3.2 sits up here, and we're just going to do a nice dotted line up just to figure out which company is going to be the cheapest. And we can see it there. So that company is Building Associates. So back to our other one. So we can see, so by looking at my graph, I can see that Building Associates, mind the bad spelling, Building Associates is cheapest for the carport. So what we could do is we could go to our graph and we could go back towards the y-axis just to see how much that would cost. And it looks like it's going to be about $380. But the issue is I'm not actually sure because the graph is never going to be perfect. So this is when we need our other achieve skill, the substitution, to be employed. So we're looking at Building Associates. So we know their formula from earlier. So C is equal to 80V plus 130. So we're going to go 80 times 3.2 plus 130. If you put that in your calculator, you're going to get $386. And that tells us the cost. And we're just going to add a sentence. This should cost $386. Just a reminder, without this working, you're going to struggle to pass because your numbers might be a little bit off. You can get it from the graph, but we must do that by itself. Okay, so we've done the first recommendation. So let's get a new page ready on our screen. So let's now have a look at the second bit. So we're looking at the driveway now. So the driveway, and the driveway is a lot bigger. It requires 6.5 meters cubed of concrete. Let's go to our graph. Let's figure out which company we're looking at. So 6.5 is down here, and we're going to go up all the way. Forgive my bad dots. And it looks like Cooper's Cement is probably going to be just slightly cheaper at that particular point. So we're then going to go back to our wordy. So by looking at the graph, it's the same as last time. By looking at my graph, I can see that, started writing Building Associates, that Cooper's Cement is the cheapest for the driveway. And here again, I couldn't really see appropriately on the graph, so we're going to need the formula. So let's go have a look. So C equals, let's scroll up, Cooper's Cement formula 40V plus 360. We're going to substitute in that 6.5. So don't forget that 6.5 becomes multiplication. And when we pop that into our calculator, you should get $620. So we're going to state here, this should cost $620. So just to note, if you can do one of these successfully, you get the communication tick for achieved, and you should get the substitution tick for achieved as well. So there's a lot riding on these recommendations. Okay, and the last one we're going to have a look at is that barbecue area, which has an area of 1.8 meters cubed. Then let's jump on to the graphs, find out 1.8. So 1.8 around here, let's go up. So it looks like that step graph actually. So that step graph there looks like it's going to be the cheapest, and they're really easy to do. You don't have to worry about substitution. So we know our answer is 250. There you go. So by looking at my graph, I can see that Wonderworks, so that was that step graph, is the cheapest for the barbecue area. This should cost $250. Just a reminder, there is no substitution here because you are dealing with that step graph. Okay, so we've now done the recommendations. The last achieved skill relates to the ranges. So we're going to have a look at that. Number 4, but I'm going to change it up this time. I'm going to call it the intersections and the ranges. So I've switched screens and I've redone my graphs to make them look a bit accurate. But the first thing I need to do is I need to have a look at the points of intersection. Points of intersection. And this tells us where the prices are the exact same for certain companies. So if we have a look on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, sorry, we can see at the point where 1.5 is happening, we can see both the Wonderworks, which is the step graph, and this other graph here, they have the exact same price. So we need to say that. So at 1.5 meters cubed, both Wonderworks, let's quickly see who that other company is. So they start at 130. So that company would have been the Building Associates. So both Wonderworks and Building Associates would cost, and in this case, they're both going to cost $250. We now need to repeat this for every point of intersection we can see. So if we follow our cheapest line, we can see at this point here, if we go down, so it looks like 0.5, which makes 3, 3.5, 4. So at 4, those two lines touch each other. Or actually 3 lines, because we can see the green line, which is the step graph for Wonderworks, the black line, Building Associates, and top notch is this red line. All of them are going to cost $450. So at 4 meters cubed, that was a bad 3. So we've got WW, BA, and top notch. All would cost $450. Just a reminder, do use your context. Make sure you're using the names or abbreviations. Make sure you're telling me the measurement and you're telling me how much they cost. Okay, and the last one, can we see any more? So it looks like there is one more point of intersection up the very top here that might be relevant. We could probably discuss the one over here as well if we're really keen, but let's just settle on that one there because we only need to do 1 or 2 of them. So at 5.75 meters squared, both the black line was Building Associates, And the blue line was Cooper's Cement, and Cooper's, oh, sorry, spelled that wrong. Cooper's Cement would cost $575. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. I'm chatting about the lines, where they intersect, and how much they cost. So the key two were those first ones, because they were relevant, because they were both the cheapest options. One further up the top here wasn't too relevant because there was a cheaper option down the bottom. Once we've done that, we're now going to discuss the ranges. And this is going to be where you need your highlighter pen. So what we need to do is we need to focus, start at the very end or the very bottom graph, and we're just going to highlight all the way up. And then you'll see at that point there, that is when another company becomes cheaper. So we follow that line. We then join back up at the cheapest option, which is along here. And then another line is now cheapest. And the same for the top, we now finish up along there. So those yellow lines, or those highlighting, they represent the cheapest option. It's the lowest graph as you're following along on your x-axis. And this information tells us some important stuff. So for this area, we should be going for the black line, which is the building associates. For this portion, we should be going for that step graph. And we carry that on until we've discussed all of our options. So let's jump back into our writing just to make a bit more sense of this. So our ranges. So here I'm just going to do some bullet points. So between 0 and 1.5 meters squared. So just so you know where I got those numbers. So just changing back to the bit 10 function. So for these ones here, that there is 1.5. So between those values, that building associates would be cheaper. The building associates would be the cheapest. We then carry on with our next portion. So we're back on the other graph. So between that 1.5 and 2 range, that is top notch. I think the step graph, let's quickly check from our equations. Yep. Oh, no, so that's Wonderworks. Good thing I checked. So Wonderworks is the cheapest for those ranges. So between 1.5, or I wrote squared before, but that should be cubed, and 2 meters cubed. Wonderworks, the Wonderworks should be the cheapest. And at this point here, we can actually say an exact price because it's always going to be $250. But the other ones, because the price has changed along there, that meant we couldn't give an exact price for that. So $250. So I'm not sure why the $250 moved to that screen, but there we go. We then have a look at the next range. So between 2 and, that looks like 4. So we've got 3, 3.5, and 4. So between 2 and 4, it looks like the building associates is going to be cheaper. So between 2 and 4 meters cubed, building associates will be the cheapest. Okay, and we're going to carry on. We're nearly finished. So for the values between 4 and, so that's 4.5, 5, 5.5, and 6. So between 4 and 6, it looks like that red line, which is top notch, is going to be cheapest. So between 4 meters cubed and 6 meters cubed, top notch will be the cheapest. And it looks like anything after 6 is going to be the blue line. and that's that Cooper cement as well. So anything above 6 meters cubed, Cooper's cement will be the cheapest. There we go. So what we've done is we've now just finished up all of the achieve stuff, and if you could finish everything we've done here, you're actually going to get all of the merit criteria as well. So I think that's really important. So let's just recap what we did in this video. We first started by drawing all the graphs. So I did my bad version, but make sure yours is at a really good level, a really good detail, like my second one. We then did all the equations, and don't forget, you've got to include the limits to make sure you get those marks. We then did all the recommendations, and that included the communication and the substitution. And we did that 3 times. And then finally, we chatted about the points of intersection. So this is really important. This is the new thing we introduced in our video. And then we chatted about the ranges as well. So if you could do all of that, you'll actually end up getting a merit. So we would have done graphs. We would have done equations. We would have done substitution. Or substitution. We then would have done those intersections. And finally, we did communicate our recommendations as well. So that there would have got you to merit. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Just under half an hour, so hopefully you got some time left to do your own thing. Now, make sure you have updated any practice tasks for these, and hopefully you've got a better understanding of how to complete this internal. Thanks so much, guys.